Well, not so long ago, it would have been unthinkable that the National Party, the old Country Party, would endorse a climate policy that would put the livelihoods of farmers, miners and regional manufacturers and communities at risk. But today, if reports are to be believed, they are days away from giving the green light to net zero by 2050, just in time for the Glasgow Climate Summit. For his take on the state of the climate debate in this country, I'm joined by the former Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the National Party, John Anderson. John, just on the broader issue of climate, this 2050 commitment, without yet knowing what that cost would be, without having nuclear in the mix and, of course, no technology to get us there, are we making an historic blunder here, considering where we are with China and national security and jobs more broadly?
I'd want to see the roadmap before I was convinced that we had a solid way forward on this. Though I have to say I have utmost respect for Scott Morrison and the role he's played globally with AUKUS and what have you. He's punching way above Australia's weight, and I'm glad for that. And I'm also glad the federal team under Barnaby are doing everything they can to ensure that the regions are not hit too hard by any decision that is made. After all, you've got to remember that the state divisions of the National Party everywhere have pretty much signed up to net zero. The states really have moved concretely in that area. So we have to deal with reality. But we also know that if it's not done properly, we'll end up with a dirtier world. We'll simply offshore a lot of industry because of the terrible way that accounting's done. You can send your industries offshore and then bring your products back, but you're still consuming the products that produce the emissions. I would say this, though, there's 2 points about the bush. It's critical, in my view, we recognise that agriculture can actually play a very positive role. It has to be engaged in this debate because regardless of what we think, feeding people paddock to plate is responsible for about 30% of global emissions. The other point I'd make, though, in relation to fossil fuels, can I just make the obvious point that Australian fossil fuels, particularly coal, can play a major role in helping places that are major emitters transit to a new alternative energies, if that proves technically and politically feasible.
I mean, the issue I think hits regional communities hard is agriculture and transport, given our geography, given our sparsely populated continent. Now, what concerns me is, just say Barnaby Joyce gets a barrow load of cash from Scott Morrison. There won't be payments that are secure for regional communities all the way to 2050. You know and I know there's about, 10 elections between now and then. There's no guarantee that that funding will be there as support. And of course, if we weaken agriculture, if we wipe away mining exports, and we've got a high welfare state in this country that's only getting stronger and more expensive, how are we going to pay our way?
Well, I agree with you entirely. So whatever's put forward has to ensure that farming remains not just profitable, but we're actually able to feed people. If we break the politics of the world, and they're in a dangerous place, you and I have talked about this in the past, we could break the liberal democratic order as it's known over the next few years with bad policies. We could literally break it. And one of the first casualties will be climate policy. So we've got to actually make sure that we're hard-nosed and we don't commit ourselves to doing things that in the end prove technically impossible or result in mass poverty or what have you. Having said that, I actually think there are real opportunities for farmers in securing a benefit for storing more CO2, not least of all higher quality, denser foodstuffs. And in relation to mining, well, we know that 1 tonne of Hunter Valley coal is equivalent in energy, calorific energy, to 1.4 tonnes of coal from somewhere else. So to argue against Australian exporting coal and to not account for that properly in the terms of what it does globally is nuts. So the point here is that bad policy will create political mayhem. We know that 75% of people agree with the targets or want to exceed them. But we also know that the minute you talk about job losses and economic pain, their support evaporates. So I must say, I think the National Party room, it needs to be recognised that they are doing the job they're put there for. They're testing all of this. They're teasing it out. I don't want to be somebody from the past who tells them what to do, but I want to make this plea to people who say they're holding back. They want to know that they can secure the best possible deal, and it's not subsidies. That's, as you say, they'll go away. It's got to be soundly based technology pathways, gives you the energy that we need. We're in the business of feeding people at affordable rates. It gives you the science and the technology for Australian farmers to keep improving their productivity and so forth. It has to be real answers. It has to be a transition to, if this is what it's going to be, to new energy. I don't see how that's going to work yet. So I doubt, given that this is a global problem.
Well, the technology's not there. The technology is not there unless nuclear is in the mix. Nuclear has to be in the mix. The Prime Minister ruled that out. I understand the politics pre-election, but the National Party, people at home perhaps don't understand, the Labor Party doesn't represent the poorest seats in the country. The lower income seats are represented by the National Party, and this, I guess, is where their minds will be focused over the next few days.
Well, I think that's right. And I just want to say all power to the National Party to get this right for country people. This is very important for the nation. And by the way, on nuclear power, I've just seen some results from Compass polling, which shows that rural Australians are the most open. In fact, they're extraordinarily open. They want us to have a sensible debate about nuclear power. They're not mugs.
Yeah, well, let's see if we have that sensible debate. John Anderson, love having you on the show. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Good to be with you.